Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Rich Eisen Show basketball podcast. Here we are, a couple days before NBA All-Star Weekend in Cleveland, a week after the NBA trade deadline last week, which was insane. Adam and TJ are here. What's up, fellas?
Good to be back.
Yo, what up, though?
Yo, Adam, glad to have you back. We missed you last week as TJ and I were going through the madness that was NBA trade deadline. We were...
I don't know if we actually missed him. It was more time for us to talk, to be kind of honest with you.
TJ drinking some haterade.
Well, he's still salty because...
It's not being hater. It's being obvious. Like, one less person's more time for us to talk. So
Tatum and Brown just hit 2 more threes.
Oh, man.
We're up by 60 now.
Jeez.
I don't think you're ever going to recover
man,
from
that was
game last night.
What a brutal curb stomping the Celtics gave the Sixers last night. And by the way, let me explain something to you about the way Chris Brockman is wired. His team, the Boston Celtics, playing my team, he gets mad at me this morning, Adam, because he bet on my team who lost by 50 instead of betting on his own team. Is that my fault?
Well, that's not exactly what happened.
Bet against your team?
That's not exactly.
Essentially,
that's
he did.
not essentially.
I mean,
essentially.
No.
I bet on. I had Joel Embiid as part of a 6-leg in-game, same-game parlay to just get 30 and 12, like he's been getting. Oh, I don't know, every single game this season. It seems like, and he had 19 and 9.
See, that's the problem when you bet. Even when you bet against your own team with just a player that you're rooting for on the other team, it screws everything up. You can never bet for a player on the opposing team no matter what. No matter how degenerative a gambler you are.
So, Adam,
you cannot do that.
As an unbiased person in this, would you say that like I was in the right for feeling a little attacked today when he was like yelling at me?
Well, all I've been hearing for months on this podcast now is how Embiid is the MVP, and I was like, oh, well, then put up some MVP numbers against a Celtics team that doesn't really have a good big man to guard you. That's all I'm saying.
You said yesterday the Celtics play great defense is what the last thing you said to me before we left.
And they did play great defense.
Okay, so then
Al Horford locked them down. Look, you guys were at home. I was expecting you to play well and defend your home court.
We don't have our full squad,
and
Chris.
You got absolutely
There's a guy with a real beard, unlike Adam Chudwin's beard, and he was sitting on the bench. And he didn't play yet. Okay. By the way, bro, I would assume that you would have let that grow some more.
Come back with a beard.
This is like 4 days right now. This is pretty significant.
It's not though, bro.
No,
okay. How about this?
Don't shave for the rest of the basketball season.
No, I won't shave until next podcast next week.
No,
agree to that.
That's not going to do anything.
No. Don't shave till the playoffs.
Yeah, the girl playoffs. Yeah, it's a playoff.
Playoffs? Are we talking playoffs?
That's only like 6 weeks.
Your Bulls are going to be in the playoffs in a very high seed too. So playoff beard. That way, if you really are capable of growing a beard.
Right. If you're really claiming to be on the beard gang like you do, you will actually show up to this podcast with a beard.
We'll do a trial run next week, and we'll see what happens.
All right, we'll see.
A trial run just to pick up the growth. All right, so where were we? All right, TJ and I were talking last week about all the trades that were happening, but we were just speculating about a possible James Harden trade, where he might end up. The next day, of course, it did go down. A massive, massive trade right in the middle of TJ Jefferson's maybe greatest sports day, one of the greatest sports days of his life.
Just days, period, Chris. Not
Dak
just sports.
Prescott and Troy Aikman were in studio last week for the big show during Super Bowl week. And then the big trade does go down. James Harden to the Philadelphia 76ers for Ben Simmons,
also
and
to add
Seth
to that,
Curry and Andre Drummond and a couple first rounders.
And not to interrupt, sorry, to add to how great last Thursday was for me, in addition to Troy and Dak and James Harden, I spilled a half a cup of tea that I keep in my Ted Lasso cup, Adam, all over my laptop in the middle of the show while Rich is talking to me.
Of the show.
And I was sitting here panicking. I got up. Rich is like, "Where are you going?" He was trying to talk to me. I had to run in the back.
Just got up in the middle of the conversation.
Laptop never stopped.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
No, I have this little keyboard cover, which kind of protected it. So I recommend that to people. I literally spilled half a cup of tea, and I just sat here like, oh my goodness.
Easily one of the
nothing happened.
Literally spilling the tea.
Easily unbelievable.
So it was a great day for me, and
great moments in TJ Jefferson's life.
February the 10th is TJ Appreciation Day.
All right, TJ, we'll get to your thoughts in a minute, but since Adam's back, I want to ask him, Adam, what'd you think of the trade? Winners and losers. How does this affect each team?
I think the Sixers and the Nets are both winners on this trade. Yeah. I think it makes sense for both teams. You have the Brooklyn Nets getting Ben Simmons, who's an amazing distributor. That guy is going to be awesome on the fast break of KD and Kyrie. Oh my God, it's going to be unbelievable to watch. I think that works out for that team. I think he's a better fit than Harden was. And on the other hand, I think the Sixers came out winning also because you have the pick and roll of Harden and Embiid, which is going to cause nightmares. Because think about how good Harden was with Capella doing the pick and rolls and all those
that's kind of
alley-oops.
what we talked about last week.
It's going to be insane now, and I think he's going to be a great fit with that team. I think the Philadelphia fans are going to love Harden. I just see that working out for both teams, and I think it really was a great trade.
Yeah, so wins for both teams. Who do you think goes further in the playoffs? Like, if they are an eventual matchup, like, could they be the 3-6? Maybe. Could they meet in the second round? Maybe. Who wins a best-of-7 series at full strength?
That's really tough. I mean, I think it depends on the COVID rules.
Yeah.
I think if Kyrie can't play in the home games, then I give Philadelphia the edge. But if he can play, I think that Brooklyn has the advantage just because I think the best player out of all of those guys is Kevin Durant. Mm-hmm. So when you have the best player, you usually win that series. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, TJ, so we had kind of previewed what a possibility of a trade might look like between these two teams. I don't think we really thought that, well, Seth Curry was kind of rumored, but so was Maxey, so was Tybal.
Yeah.
You get to keep both of those guys in Philly, give up the 2 first-round picks, but first-round picks don't really mean anything with the swaps and everything, and the Rams just won a Super Bowl. They don't have any first-round picks.
Picks.
What is your, now that it's been a week, what is your thoughts on the trade? Who won, who lost?
Again, I think the thing that's most surprising to me is it seems like a lot of, people who are grading the trade all seem to say that the Nets came out on top, which was a little surprising. I agree with Adam in the sense that, you can say what you want about Ben Simmons, but he does own a particular set of skills, right? Which, I, for years, had been defending him hardcore for, as you know. The fact is, shooting jumpers isn't his thing, but he's 6'10", he's 7 foot tall, he's a world-class athlete. Doesn't have, I'd say, the best basketball skills, so to speak, but the dude's athletic as heck. He's going to be able to get to the rack at will. A distributor. Now he just has to worry about kicking the ball out to Kyrie, kicking the ball out to KD. Doesn't have to worry about being that scoring option. He can do the other 4 things that he does so well, which is world-class, all-world defender, ball handler, dishing the rock, facilitator. He can run it. I think he can run an offense fairly well, but it's going to be interesting to see how he and Kyrie, how that dynamic runs. Because it seems like Kyrie kind of let Harden do the running of the offense while Kyrie did his. What am I saying? They played 16 games together. Yeah. So it's not like we really know what was going on there. But, Ben Simmons, look, I definitely don't want to make light of the mental health thing, right? Obviously.
Yeah, and we won't.
I'll leave it at that. I don't want to make fun of the mental health thing. Yeah. And I'll say this, if he does get himself back, his mind's right, his body's right, yes, he's going to be a force for the Nets, and he's going to be a player that is going to fit in really well there. And as far as Harden, you brought up the Clint Capella thing. I'm looking bigger than that. I'm looking now pick and roll. You're talking Stockton and Malone now, It's going to be pretty dope to see what these guys can do together. You have Embiid playing final boss basketball right now. This is peak Embiid. And now you got Harden. You don't need the 30-point a game James Harden, right? You don't need that. You need this guy, 20 and 10. And if you get Harden and he's healthy and this team can mesh, it's going to be fun to watch. I'm glad Maxey didn't get traded. I'm glad we kept Tybal. It kind of stinks to lose Green. I'm sorry, we kept Green. Stinks to lose Curry. Yeah, Curry. Because you're going to need that shooting. But Danny Green's got, 2 rings? So, he's going to have to step his game up. Or 3 rings, actually, Danny Green. I'm sorry, put some respect on his name.
Yeah, you brought up the mental health stuff with Ben Simmons and then how Harden fits into all of this. On the Big Show on Wednesday, we talked to Michael Smith from Brother for Another on Peacock. And this is what he had to say with Rich about both those topics.
What's your take on the Simmons for Harden trade? I know there are others are involved, but those are the headliners. So what's your take on that?
Well, basketball-wise, I think the Sixers, they're conventional wisdom is that if you get the best player, you win the trade. They got the best player, even if you're inclined to believe that James Harden is not the player that he once was. Maybe the last time he and Daryl Morey were together, he's not the same player. But he's still the best player in this trade. However, I do think that Simmons, when he plays, will be the better fit. Now, the trick part about this whole thing is, usually when teams blow it up, it's either because guys are past their prime or it's because, there's money involved. There's some, typical reason why an experiment didn't work. This one didn't work for reasons that had nothing to do with basketball. They never played together, the Nets I'm talking about. And when they did play together, they were wonderful. This was a personality conflict and James Harden just getting restless. So that's the most fascinating aspect of it. This is unlike any kind of star swap we've seen. And the same thing goes for Philadelphia. They were just sick of Ben Simmons' act. Now, having said that, going back to basketball, I think Simmons is the better fit with the Nets and what they already have and what they need than Harden is with the Sixers, even though they weren't getting anything from Simmons to begin with. So while the Sixers got the better player, I would be inclined to think, again, once he plays, and assuming he's okay, that the Nets got the better of the trade. But the broader aspect of it is, on Harden's side, legacy, and I don't need to get into that, I'm just happy to see and hear from Ben Simmons. And not that he needs my approval, but I, like many others, reduced his discontent to the comments that were made after the Hawks series and other motivations such as ego and wanting to have his own team and not wanting to get along with Embiid and this, that, and the other. If he had some personal issues that preceded his playoff meltdown and that further complicated it, I just hope he's getting to a place where he can be happy and be the player that he's gifted enough to be. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy he's got a fresh start. And even though he's in the New York market, I would think there's less pressure on him, at least to begin with. We'll see how teams are able to exploit his lack of shooting in the playoffs.
What do you make of the concept of his mental health being the reason why he couldn't play for Philadelphia, and now he's with Brooklyn, and he seems to be struggling less with that, Michael?
You're talking about in terms of skepticism as to whether or not it really just came down to he didn't want to be in Philly and it's not really mental health, and, is he using mental health as a cover? You mean that?
Let me just put a fine point on it that, that is the conversation being had in Philadelphia and writ large.
I understand
that this could be possible, and it is very touchy subject. It couldn't be not. It's one of the touchiest subjects. It's one that we, take very seriously.
Sure.
And so, what do you think?
I think you should be consistent, and I know that's what I want to be. It would be a disservice, and it would be unfair, and that was the skepticism to begin with, that, this is a guy really throwing a tantrum and using something very serious as a shield from further criticism when he's just not, tough enough to handle what thousands of players have handled before him and will handle after him, which is criticism for his own shortcomings. But I'll say this from personal experience. You can't heal where you got sick. And whatever he was dealing with off the court, I can't do anything other than take his word that there was something else going on. I don't think it's for me or us, for that matter, to dismiss his claims that he had some stuff going on in his life independent of the playoffs and independent of his relationship with the Sixers, and those things only exacerbated or compounded whatever was going on. So, yes, is it convenient that he's on the road to playing again now that he's gotten what he's wanted? It's no different than our children. They throw a tantrum, then you give them what they want, and they act as sweet as pie. It's like, well, wait a second, you know what I mean? Like, that's not the way you go about doing things. But if he says that there were issues that he doesn't want to get into, I think if we're going to be consistent when it comes to evolving and maturing ourselves as a society, as an industry, as individuals, when it comes to discussing the broad tent that is mental health, then let's be consistent. Let's not because we already have a preconceived notion or we already have an opinion about what we think it is or what we think it should be. Let's not let that cloud our judgment, or let's not even judge at all, I think. It's not a hot take, but I think it's the right way to go about it. If somebody says, I had issues that I don't really want to get into that had nothing to do with the trade, I'm going to believe him. The same way I'm going to believe James Harden that Philadelphia was his first choice, even though he probably says that to all the teams at this point. So, I think the best way to do it is the way we've always been doing it, which is let's be better than we've been traditionally and historically when it comes to dismissing out of hand somebody struggling with personal issues. I mean, they have lives outside of basketball. We see the basketball. We see him turning down shots. We see him turning down dunks. We see him demanding a trade and sitting out a season and losing a bunch of money. I'll tell you what, I respect the fact that my guy was so committed to not playing for that organization again that he forfeited a big chunk of change. So I would think something must have really been wrong for him to give up the millions of dollars that he did.
What do you think this means for the Nets and Sixers in the short term and long run? What do you got for me?
Well, they got him under contract. So if New York, and you're more familiar with that market and the politics of that market than I am, if New York ends up easing its vaccine mandate and Kyrie Irving is able to play full time, well, I got another one for you. I got another joke for you. Mm-hmm. I don't know why everybody was tripping about Kyrie Irving only playing half the games when James Harden only played half the court.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, he did his own rim shot there in his house. I like it.
Anyway, that was so corny, but that's on brand for me. No, if they get all of their guys back plus Seth Curry, like I said, I think Simmons is the better fit. He's still an elite defender, an incredible passer, amazing in transition. And if he's right mentally, I think, especially in the half court, and this has been said by a lot, if he could just accept his role, by a lot of people, if he could accept his role and use that passing ability to make that offense flow more in line with what Kevin Durant and Steve Nash wanted. I think I read where James Harden philosophically wanted a more ISO-heavy attack, whereas, Nash and Durant want to play more like the Warriors. Well, here's your Draymond Green. Not that he's as good as Draymond Green.
No, I know what you're saying. No, it's just interesting, just in terms of strategy. So what about the Sixers? That does Harden not have enough time to get in, and that maybe next year's a year for it? Or I'm just hoping the basketball gods see fit to make this a 3-6 first round matchup, 4-5 or whatever. I mean, that would just be dynamite.
I hope they both play. Was it March 10th? I hope they can both play by then.
I mean, March 10th. I don't know. Do you send Simmons into Philadelphia? Is that what you do? I mean,
well, if you want the 3-6, you got to get it out of the way at some point.
No, that's going to happen. I mean, the playoffs. He can't sit out or have management or whatever. I
think you rip that Band-Aid off. I mean, that's because wherever he goes, if he goes to Brooklyn, I know Brooklyn's fan base isn't what Philly's is, and he doesn't have the history in Brooklyn. But if he struggles in Brooklyn, you're gonna hear boos there too.
Oh, of course.
Now, he's probably gonna hear boos at every arena he plays at, because even though he was a Philadelphia 76er, that became a national story. And you'd be hard pressed to find an NBA fan that did not have an opinion about Ben Simmons, Sixer fan or not.
Right.
So. But in terms of what was your question about
the Sixers' long run this year?
So
I mean,
Harden,
what do you think?
With Harden, so he misses the deadline conveniently to opt in for next year. Harden is that guy, either that woman or man, whichever, that has a whole lot of relationships, like a serial monogamous. He's like, yo, why you have no trouble getting a boyfriend, but why have you run through so many? Or that person whose resume has a long list of employment. It's like, why you can't keep a job? You can get a job, but you can't keep a job. Harden has run through every superstar in the NBA at this point that he could realistically do it with. So unless and until it does work with Joel Embiid, I'm skeptical that it will, because for some reason it has not worked with Harden and another superstar. Embiid is also not just a roll to the rim. He's not going to take a back seat. He's not a take a back seat kind of big man. He is if they run the pick and roll game, he's probably more likely to pop than he is to roll. So it'll be interesting to see how they gel in a short period of time. And in that short period of time, let's say they don't win it. Let's say they don't win a championship this year. Is Harden going to have a wandering eye again? Does he just want to be a free agent and pick his team independent of trade machinations and ownership input and general manager? Does he want to be wooed? What's important to him? Because what I still believe, if had he given it time, and I get the Kyrie thing frustrated him. He's not alone in that. But you mean to tell me a healthy Kevin Durant and a healthy James Harden could not have contended in the Eastern Conference without Kyrie Irving? I still believe they could have.
Well, I said yesterday, if he doesn't win with Philadelphia, or it doesn't work with Philadelphia for Harden, then he becomes Westbrook. That's what he becomes.
Even if it does work, does he get the usual championship credit?
I think he would. I think he would
do the way he got here.
I think he would. I think he would be lionized in Philadelphia forevermore if he brings the Sixers a championship, or he's part of a Sixers championship, even if he's just there as a complimentary piece to an out of his gourd Embiid. I think he would. I do.
Listen, I mean, a ring is a ring. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
And if he's hungry and his Marissa Tomei biological clock is doing this, is
it's
ticking.
stopping, yeah.
Then, okay, I get that. And however he gets it, he gets it. And there's no shame in being a number two, a clear-cut number two, arguably the best big man, if not one of the best players in the NBA. There's no shame in that, whatsoever. There's no shame in being, no disrespect to the Big O, but there's no shame in being Oscar to Embiid's Kareem, if you will. Oscar's also one of the greatest players of all time, right? But it was Lou Alcindor. So regardless, it's a ring. Will he be lionized in Philly? Yeah, because they're championship stars. But James Harden, the MVP, being so nomadic and such a hired gun,
right,
and the way he forced his way out of Philadelphia, the way he's forced his way out of the Nets, I question as to whether or not he'll be viewed in the same vein as most players superstar players who win championships. Now, the other side of that coin is what he talked about yesterday. Maybe this is just somebody, a player taking the player empowerment era that we're in to a whole nother level, and just it hasn't found the right spot. But if you got to go through so much to find the right spot and so many people to find the right spot, like even if you count the iterations of the Rockets when he was there, both in terms of supporting cast, head coach, and now it didn't work, or he didn't want to see it through, with the Nets a year later. Now he is with the Sixers. I feel like it's already a referendum on him, and I don't know if that championship makes me look at him any differently. Brilliant individual player, brilliant scorer, brilliant passer, exceptional talent, one of the best scorers we've ever seen. But I think he's shown that he's that proverbial, you can't win with him as your best player. Thankfully, they got Joel Embiid for that, so we'll see how they fit together.
So really interesting comments from Michael Smith there. Thought-provoking, really makes you think about it. And I think he is right. We say what you want about Ben Simmons, and we certainly all have for a few months now. You got to take him at his word. If he says he's been dealing with stuff, let's believe him. Mm-hmm. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt, and let's wait till he gets back on the basketball court to judge him as a basketball player. I think the key in this whole trade, I agree with you, Adam, it's a win for both teams. Both teams are going to be better out of this. Seth Curry, for me, is kind of the key element to this for the Brooklyn Nets. In last year's playoffs, what couldn't they do when it mattered the most? Yes, Kevin Durant should probably wear the right size shoe. but Joe Harris also couldn't hit an open shot. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was dreadful in the postseason, and probably the reason why they didn't win a championship last year. Seth Curry in the last couple of seasons is lights out. Yeah. He has really taken his game to another level. And I think if he can get himself open with Ben Simmons running the fast break, suddenly look at those options. Seth Curry standing in the corner, Kevin Durant on one wing, Kyrie Irving on the other wing. How are they going to be stopped?
I don't think they will be stopped unless the COVID thing is still there. That's why I think Brooklyn's the favorite right now. I really do. So
you're still in on them.
I'm still in on them. Yeah.
Championship favorite.
Yeah, right now.
Over Phoenix, over Milwaukee.
No, not champ. I think Golden State is
or to come out of the East.
Yeah, to come out of the East. Okay. Yeah, they're still my favorite team right now. Yeah.
And then from the Philadelphia side, we talked about it last week, TJ. Mm-hmm. I love James Harden, which is weird. I know you find that strange that I love James Harden. I just love watching him play basketball because he's a savant offensively. And I think Brooklyn was never the right spot for him because that team, Kevin Durant wants to play like the old Warriors did. Well, James Harden wasn't the fit there because, as we've seen within his Houston years, James Harden wants to play iso ball. He wants to dribble for a while and shoot a step-back three or get himself to the rim and either finish or go to the line 12, 14, 16 times a game. And that just wasn't a fit with Kyrie Irving. I actually give Kyrie Irving a lot of credit for kind of stepping back from being the traditional point guard in that team and their system offensively. But you put him in Philadelphia. You talked about the pick and roll, TJ. Mm-hmm. Stockton and Malone potential with the way Embiid has played basketball in the last 2 months. He's been out of this world last night, notwithstanding against Boston. He has been incredible. And if James Harden shows up in shape, motivated,
yes.
Motivated, because you can tell, he was still playing hard, but the way he forced himself out of Houston, wasn't motivated, wasn't trying, wasn't giving A+ effort. You could tell. He just happened to get hurt last year in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then, this part of the year with Brooklyn, you could tell he was frustrated from training camp with the Kyrie Irving situation. He gets out of there. He's going to be happy. I mean, that video clip of him getting off the private jet and giving Daryl Morey a hug, it was like the end of Shawshank. It was like Red and Andy on the beach, like the way him and Daryl Morey were hugging.
We're united and it feels so good.
What a
He
flex
seems
that
so
was.
happy.
That's like a 70-minute drive from Brooklyn to Philly, and he took a PJ.
Took a PJ. And it was only like a 5-second clip too, but it was like he gets off there, the air must have smelled fresher. His clothes must have fit better. Like the warm embrace of Daryl Morey. My God.
There's probably a Geno's cheesesteak ready for him.
Hey, Mark,
Geno's,
I want you to have my
Pat's,
cheese
Jim's,
fries.
all cheese fries, all of the above. Honey buns. I mean, come on.
By the
James
way,
Harden must be so happy.
What we're not fully taking into consideration here, and what no one on a show has touched on, is what James Harden, his presence, is going to bring to the local Philadelphia economy.
Stop.
When I say the local Philadelphia economy, I mean the local nightlife Philadelphia economy. The clothing optional clubs that I spoke about before, things of that nature.
Well,
it's going to be a boom at him, and he's going to single-handedly may have a resurgence. So there's going to be a lot of money flooding into the area.
There will be a lot of young ladies potentially moving from Las Vegas to Philadelphia for the next few months.
You guys.
And from Houston potentially also. Because he has his number retired somewhere and it's not in an arena. He will get his number retired in an arena someday, but look it up, guys, if you don't know what I'm talking about.
Stop it. Look, James Harden, if he's motivated, if he's inspired, he is... The sky's the limit with this Philadelphia team. I think it's a perfect fit with Embiid.
Yeah.
James Harden had taken another guy at his word, like Michael Smith said. He said he wanted to be in Philly first, and then somehow he made his way to Brooklyn because he listened to KD and Kyrie that it was going to work. I guess I take him at his word. I mean, it seems like he says that to everyone, but
it'll be interesting to see Harden play with Embiid just because he's never had a
real
traditionally
big man.
great center to play with.
Exactly.
Like Clint Capella was a really good player, and he balled out a little bit, but like Clint Capella's not Joel Embiid, so it's. And also the Nets it's going to be funny about the Nets. Now they got two players who won't take a shot.
Ba-bong.
All right.
Well done, TJ.
Thank you.
All right. So you're obviously, TJ, you love it as a Sixer fan. You're so happy.
I'm happy with it. I also realize that, despite what we've all said about Ben Simmons, and of course, I think I felt a little bit more strongly because I was such a protector and a defender of Ben Simmons. But the fact of the matter is, he is going to fit in well with this Nets team, and the Nets are going to be a problem. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know that a loser came out of this trade, except for Ben's bank account. That was the only thing that probably was the biggest loser.
Yeah, when he gave up 20-something, almost $25 million to not play this year, personal decision. He feels happy, but he's still under contract for a couple more years, so he's not hurting. How does this tip the balance of power in the East? So, Adam, you still think the Nets come out, but
assuming things are back to normal with the COVID stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Adam Silver said today, Wednesday, that Brooklyn's vaccine mandate for indoors doesn't really make sense. Like, why does it only affect the home players? Why shouldn't unvaccinated players visiting those New York teams? Why do they get to play? Plausible. I totally get all that. Maybe by the NBA playoffs and the NBA finals, things will have changed. Who knows? But you still think the Nets come out of the East. TJ, what say you on that?
That's a tough one, guys, because the fact of the matter is, for as hyped as I am about this Philly trade, now that we're at the All-Star break, and he's not going to play until after, that's 25 games left in the Sixers season, right? Once they come back from All-Star weekend. Is that going to be enough weekend to fully get your chemistry going, to fully, get guys to understand, all right, I need to be here when James has the ball, or James likes the ball here. And, it's going to take time. I don't know if 25 games is enough. We're going to see. I don't know. The East, bro, this is exciting, man, because the top 7 teams, there are 5 games separating 1 through 7. You're a hangnail on your toe away from, your star player, getting hurt, and then now you've dropped down 3 spots because you lost 2 games. So I'm not willing to make a prediction yet who comes out in the East, but man, this is going to be fun. And now that football's over, I'm fully devoting all of my time and all of my TV watching to basketball. And I've never hid this. Basketball, like Curtis Blow said, is my favorite sport. So this is exciting, man.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
Forward.
Like you just said, even Brooklyn, okay, they're in the 8th spot right now. They're in the play-in tournament. They're only 6.5 back of Miami and Chicago. So what's stopping them from Simmons comes back in a couple weeks? Suddenly they go on a run. Kevin Durant is healthy. Maybe the vaccine mandate gets lifted in New York. What's stopping them from going on a run and finishing as the 2 or 3 seed behind Milwaukee? Maybe they get going. Maybe we're not even talking about the Bucks. Giannis had 50 Tuesday night. Guy is unstoppable. Should they be considered the East favorite?
I mean, you have to be thinking about that.
I mean, they're the champs, right? To be the man, woo, you got to beat the man
16 times.
And they're still the man right now.
Yeah.
They still have a guy who we think could go down as top 10 all time in his prime, still getting better.
Had 50 last night.
In Giannis. I don't know, man. Maybe we're not giving Milwaukee their due.
Milwaukee, I think the pickup of Serge Ibaka was very important for them.
Okay.
Brook Lopez, I don't know if he's going to come back this season.
He hasn't played at all.
Yeah, he hasn't played at all. He was huge as part of their championship run last year, but the Serge Ibaka signing was big. And you just can't count out the defending champs with a player like Giannis. You just can't. So they have to be up there in
And Bobby Portis, I know because I have him in our fantasy league, but Bobby Portis has been unbelievable filling in for Brook Lopez. He has taken that center who shoots threes role on that team very well. I mean, he's making multiple every night. He's filling that spot. You've hardly noticed Brook Lopez was out. I don't know. I kind of still think the Bucks might come out of the East. In the West, on the other hand, Phoenix seems to be pulling away from Golden State and Memphis. They're up 5.5 now on the Warriors. Are you concerned about the Warriors? We had a fun second take topic on the big show today because First Take was talking about it. Warriors still the team to beat, even though they're down 5.5 in the standings to Phoenix?
To me, the Warriors are still the best team. I just think
when fully healthy.
When fully healthy, you have Steph Curry, who to me is still I always like to say that usually the team with the best player wins. And to me, Steph Curry is better than Devin Booker or Chris Paul. And then you have Klay, who's slowly improving each and every game. He's getting better back into Klay form. I think by playoff time, Klay will be in Klay like old school, like 2017, 2018 mode. And so I think with that, along with, hopefully Wiseman will come back. I think that team really, to me, they're still the team to beat right now. In
the West or in the whole
I think the Warriors are going to win the championship this year. I really do, assuming they're healthy. And I love the addition of Gary Payton Jr. this year. This guy has been so good on defense, and I think that he can cause major problems for teams in the playoffs, especially if they play Phoenix guarding Chris Paul and Devin Booker.
Yeah. Also important, too, was Jordan Poole getting those first team, first rep minutes, getting able to get some scoring games behind him. That confidence that if someone does go down late stretch, maybe Klay has a retweak of something that he can step right in and they're not going to miss a beat.
Yep.
Yeah, and having him coming as the sixth man off the bench, that's just instant offense right away.
You still a Warriors believer, TJ, or is Phoenix going to come out of the West for you when this is all said and done?
Man, it's something that I'm really looking at, man, because I was watching last night, Phoenix played the Clippers. And by the way, I'm going to give a shout out to Ty Lue, who is doing an incredible coaching job.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier in the week.
Yeah, when you consider the fact that there's no Kawhi, Paul George started off, he was on a mission this year, and then he went out with an elbow injury. It looks like both of them won't be returning this season. We made the trade for Norman Powell and big shot Bob Covington. Norman Powell came out 26 in his Clipper debut.
Now he's
got a broken foot, and he's probably going to sit out the rest of the year. And yet Tyronn Lue still has this team in playoff contention, so it's pretty amazing. But lost to the Suns last night, and I feel like, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, I feel like this Suns resurgence obviously started in the bubble. That 8-0 in the bubble did something. It did something to Devin Booker, obviously. It made him go, wow, I can be the man here. I'm certain their appearance in the bubble and what they did made Chris Paul look at them and go, I might want to join that team, which he did.
Right.
You've got to give it to them, man. They've now got the experience that they didn't have last year. They're running on all cylinders right now, and they've got great, in wrestling terms, right? You have your main eventers, right? You've got your top of the card guys, but you also, in order to have a show run, you've got to have a good mid card guys. Guys who aren't going to be in the championship matches, but you put them on TV 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and they're going to entertain the fans because
the ladder
they
match.
They know what their job is.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of these Sun players are. When you talk about Bridges and Cam Johnson and these guys, they play defense, they hit open shots, they do what they're supposed to do. And this is a good team, man. This is a good team. And would I be surprised to see the Suns holding that Larry O.B. trophy at the end of the season? I don't think I'd be shocked.
Yeah, I don't think
it's almost like it's been written, right? You got there last year. You saw what your shortcomings were. You came so close. Now you're a year older, a year more experienced, and you know what to do. I mean, the Suns team could do it, guys.
Yeah, they're 47-10. They've won 9 out of 10 and 6 in a row. They're just on a different level right now.
And I will say this, that if there's one player who's more desperate than anybody to win a ring, it's Chris Paul.
Yes, man.
Chris Paul will do anything and everything possible to get that championship this year because he realizes his opportunity will be coming to a close very soon. So he's got to take advantage of this moment right now.
All right, we can't finish up the pod without talking about the Lakers, guys.
I mean, we could actually because there's nothing really to talk about.
They've
They're
only,
trash.
and then guess what? That's kind of the point. They've lost 7 of 10 here. They did not make a single move at the deadline. And we talked about it during our Super Bowl week show that was kind of one of the main stories of Super Bowl week was that the Lakers did nothing, didn't move Russell Westbrook. We don't know if they tried. We don't know if there was zero takers. THT, I know, was in a bunch of rumors. Mm-hmm. Are you surprised that they made no moves? Do you think they're going to go on a run here? And maybe, LeBron was confident this whole stretch that they were going to figure it out. Are they going to figure it out?
No. This team is not.
Do you think they fall out of the play-in? They are 3.5 ahead of New Orleans, who's on the outside looking in right now.
No, I think the Lakers still make the playoffs. As a matter of fact, I think the Lakers can, be a 7th or 8th seed, potentially give the Suns or Warriors a good series in the first round.
Yeah.
I got to be honest, if I'm the Suns or Warriors, I don't want to play the Lakers in the first round because no matter how bad the Lakers have been playing, you still have 2 of the top 10, 15 players in the league with LeBron and AD.
Yeah.
You don't want to play that team in the first round, but I don't think they're going to figure it out. I thought the Lakers during the trade deadline should have made a trade for a shooter, maybe like Eric Gordon. They didn't, though. I think the problem is Westbrook's contract is just an albatross. Nobody wants that. And I think, unfortunately for the Lakers and their fans, they're stuck with that contract and that team maybe for the next couple of years.
Yeah, you got to hope, I guess, if you're the Phoenix or Golden State, that Minnesota or the Clippers kind of take them out in the play-in. And TJ, surprised they didn't make a move. I certainly was waiting for that all last week when we were doing the pod for something to come over, and it just didn't.
I don't know. The thing is, make a move like who? Like, where was the move to be made?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't really know what they would have done.
I think I heard that John Wall I guess John Wall is the only one with a contract that big where you could
swap him for Russ, but what does that do for you?
I don't know.
It's a collateral move.
Yeah,
I don't know. I honestly, I don't know what they could have done.
I guess it was just shocking that they sat on their hands and kind of did nothing.
I don't know. Look, man, I had enough
You had enough
movement
going on
with my two squads, so I was fine with the Lakers not doing anything.
And the thing is, LeBron has nobody to blame but himself for this because he signed off on the
kind of
Russell
agree with
Westbrook
you.
trade.
Yeah,
He signed out on that.
Yeah,
He thought it was a good idea, so he can't blame Rob Pelinka or any of the rest of the staff of the Lakers.
Yeah.
This was on him. He thought it was a good idea, and it's not a good idea.
I refuse to just blame any player, though, right? Because no matter what player you are, no matter how much stroke you have, there are still people who are above you
That's true.
that can look at something and go, this isn't going to work.
That's true,
whereas I
but-
don't think you can just solely say LeBron James is the reason. Like, he may have had a voice, but ultimately, he's not making the decision.
No, ultimately it's the GM's decision,
Yeah.
but I think they're kind of, consulting each other. he obviously signed off on the deal when it happened, and it just hasn't worked. It worked out. So, admit that it's a failure and move on. They're not going to win the championship this year, obviously. They probably won't even win a playoff series. So, I'm not sad to see it, but
Neither am I.
it does make for, something to talk about each week because they are kind of compelling to watch. It's like the train wreck you can't look away from. When they're on, I'm watching. They almost beat Golden State the other day, but LeBron misses free throws at the end of the game. Look, I certainly don't feel bad, but it is compelling. It's a major story.
Looking back, if you look back on the offseason, they would have been way better keeping Caruso, keeping KCP, and keeping Kuzma. They never should have done that deal. They would have been a better team without Westbrook and with those guys on that team right now.
Yeah, we're playing the results too because Kuzma has been great this year. Caruso was awesome for the Bulls before his injury. We're playing the results a little bit, but I see your point. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this week.
Before we go,
just real quickly, can we just talk about the hottest team in the NBA, the Boston Celtics?
Shoot.
Are you seeing what's happening right now?
I'm seeing.
Oh, you saw last night.
It took a while.
I'm not liking it either.
It took a while to get it together, right? It did take a while. First year coach, Ime Udoka. You got Brad moving into the front office. It did take a while. A lot of thoughts, a lot of trade rumors with Jaylen Brown. It seems like that's been happening every single year. They do make a move. They get rid of Dennis Schroeder. They bring back Daniel Tice. They get Derek White, who's been awesome in his 3 games in Boston. I don't know. Is this a team that can make a move? Or only a game back of Philly for the 5 seed, 3.5 back in Miami for the 1. Have won 9 in a row, 9 of 10. What do you guys think? Boston? Contenders? Or are they just going to win a playoff series and then lose in the second round?
I think a successful season for Boston this year would be winning the first round. I just don't see them on the level of
Brooklyn
the first guy,
and Chicago and
Miami,
yeah,
and even Philadelphia. I think those teams are a step above the Celtics. But the Celtics, they have a franchise player in Jason Tatum, superstar already. Good young core of Jaylen Brown. Robert Williams is really good on defense.
He's been great. He's a good double-double.
Yeah, he's a good piece of that puzzle. I still think they need to make another couple moves, though, to take that team to the next level. Though.
Interesting stat I saw today. TJ and I were talking about it earlier. Not sure if you saw it, Adam, so I'll pose it to you. Jason Tatum last night crossed the 7,000 points, 2,000 rebounds, 1,000 assist plateau. He is the 3rd youngest player to ever do it. Do you know the other 2?
I would say Magic Johnson.
Okay. No.
Really?
Yeah. A player. This is how I took it to TJ because he didn't get it either. One Hall of Famer that you probably won't expect, but if you think about his play, he did a lot of scoring in his early days. And then one player who's just dominating. He scored 50 last night.
Oh, well, that's by the way, you never did give me the answer to this. Giannis scored 50 last night, so right.
I didn't tell you. I told you Giannis.
I don't. If you did, I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
What era did the other player play in?
He played in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay, so it had to be someone young, right? Like a high schooler. You would assume.
Yeah, because to get to 7,000 points in less than 4 years, that's
or someone who got mad. But so it's not Kobe.
It's not Kobe. It's T-Mac.
Really?
I was close.
Tracy McGrady and Giannis are the only other 2 players younger than Tatum. 7,000, 2,000 rebounds, and 1,000 points. And 1,000 assists.
T-Mac was so nice, man.
T-Mac was nice.
Especially when he went to the Magic.
Yeah.
He blew up once he left the Raptors.
And that just stinks that Grant Hill got hurt because of health. If Detroit, Grant Hill, and T-Mac could have played together, wow.
But he wouldn't have hit this mark because he played all 4 years in college.
No, I'm just saying, like,
how good he could have been.
They could have, those 2 together is what I'm saying. Yeah. By the way, before we go, Super Bowl, what you guys do for the Super Bowl?
Super
this
Bowl,
week?
I just kicked it at the crib, made some food, and enjoyed a great game.
Yeah.
Were you surprised what happened? Were you surprised that it was close like that? It felt to me like the Rams were about to blow them out, and then Odell got hurt, and that kind of janked up their offense, and they couldn't figure it out really till the end, and then the Cincinnati had a chance to pull away and just couldn't do it.
Well, first, what did you do, Adam? Before I answer it.
I was in my apartment.
Oh, yeah. That's what I did, bro.
Yeah, I stayed in my apartment. Yeah, that's what I did.
I was going to go over to a friend's house, and then they turned out that they were going to a neighbor's house. And I was like, I don't really know the neighbor. I don't feel comfortable kicking my feet up. And then I realized I've watched 23 21 weeks of football by myself in my apartment, other than the week I went home to Altoona. I just stayed at home. I made a Bobley. I watched the game by myself.
What's a Bobley?
Oh,
what?
Pizza.
We'll have to talk to you after.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, you've seen it.
Yeah, I made pigs in a blanket, which is a Chudwin family tradition.
Okay.
Yeah, I bought some pigs in the blanket from the grocery store. I just made those and sat on the couch, and it was fun.
It was fun.
Spicy
yeah.
mustard?
No, I don't like. I'm not a spicy person. Just plain mustard,
plain yellow.
Some ketchup also. I know that's not a Chicago thing. You're not supposed to do that with Chicago style hot dogs, but I like it. You have some ketchup, some mustard, some pigs in the blanket, and I'm good to go.
And what'd you think about the game?
I think that I thought the Bengals were actually going to at least tie in the last drive.
I thought so too.
I had the Rams winning before the game, but I just saw, okay, there's like, what was it, like a minute left. Burrow has the ball. I was like, okay, this is just like,
and on
perfect.
the first play, Chase gets 15 yards, and they're at midfield with like under a minute to go, and you're like, okay, I know how good McPherson is. They only need about 10 yards for him to be in field goal range because this guy's been money the whole playoffs.
Ultimately,
I
Donald
really
just
thought
took
it was
over.
going to overtime. Yeah, Aaron Donald just a monster.
Yeah. I agree. What you said, what I thought, I really did think it was going to be a field goal game.
Yeah.
Like somebody was like, it's either going to be like 34-7 or it's going to be 19-16, and I was like, I'm leaning them closer to the 3-point game. Great Super Bowl. It was a fun watch.
Great Super Bowl.
That's all you could ask for.
Yeah. I just feel so bad that Odell got hurt because it just felt he was on his way to a monster game.
I feel bad he got hurt, obviously. You don't want to see that. But Odell, 2 touchdowns, got his ring. I think, and if he didn't have a baby that day, which I don't think he did, it's coming
He's having
up.
a baby. So, yeah, right.
Yeah, so I
Van Jefferson did have a baby.
Yeah, Van Jefferson did have a baby.
In the post game, someone was like, hey, your wife's in the hospital.
Yeah.
He's like, oh no, talking to his other kid, we gotta go.
Yeah, so I feel like Odell, I think he'll be all right. I think he'll be. He's got his ring, he's got his baby, and he balled. By the way, the reports of Odell Beckham Jr. being washed, completely inaccurate.
I know we're all sneakerheads. By the way, did you guys see the cleats that Odell was wearing pregame?
diamond ones?
Diamonds.
Yeah.
Dude, he spent $200,000 on these cleats for pregame to wear, and they're sick.
He made $3 million in bonuses in the plaffs, so he can
afford that.
Yeah.
But shout out to the Rams, man.
Shout out to the Rams.
Congrats.
Congratulations. Much deserved for Matthew Stafford. Very happy for all of them. All right, that's going to do it for us this week. Next week, we'll review everything that went down over All-Star Weekend, and we'll take a look at the quote-unquote second half of the year as we get ready for the playoffs. Peace out.
Later.
Later.